The following announcement has been paid for by Dark Side Wrestling.
Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to another exciting episode as we talk about what's been going on here in Dark Side Wrestling. I am former 7-time World Heavyweight Champion and IWA Hall of Famer Rockstar Rob, alongside the living legend himself, the 5-time Heavyweight Champion of the world, the Iceman Travis Lane. We got a lot to talk about. A lot of fans know over the last few weeks we have been touring throughout the United States in different cities. We've been having a great time. The DSW is running wild. And a few weeks ago here on YouTube, we talked about the title unifications. We have seen champions crowned. And now those champions have just been wrestling over this past week, this past Wednesday night in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we're here to let the fans know, because it was an untelevised event, what took place during this activities.
You know, in the last pay-per-view, we had some a lot of controversy. There was some people showing up that, you know, we didn't expect, and a lot of great matches. I walked out. I did not walk out the champion. However, we've had some recent news that's going to shake up the wrestling world. And, you know, a lot of my past title defenses have had a lot of controversy, and I don't know what it is, but it just follows me, and that happened recently at the last pay-per-view.
Yeah, you know, fans in Charlotte was very shocked how all this took place. The DSW Championship Committee, along with our DSWi Board of Directors, has made an announcement and a decision that we're not going to talk about at this moment, but we will be addressing during this YouTube broadcast.
Yeah, that's just it's heavy on my mind. It's kind of like, you know, you want to be the champion. That's the point, but you don't want it to go about, you know, the wrong way, and you don't want to walk into it just given a title. But anyway,
you know, Trev, you've had a lot of big moments throughout your career. You know, you think about from the time you started back in 1998 until the present 2019 that we are. You know, the legacy that you built for yourself. 5 world title reigns, multiple U.S. title reigns, multiple tag team title reigns. But I know as we go into the new era, as we enter this new generation for Dark Side Wrestling with the social media, that this is something that you really want to prove to a new generation of fans, you know, and basically solidify your legacy in the sport of pro wrestling.
Oh, without doubt. And before we get on talking about last Wednesday's pay-per-view, we had a lot of stuff come up. I wasn't able to record a reaction video to the XFL's first official E-Fed video.
Right.
So I'd like to talk about that and get our opinions on it. So do you want to go into it first, or do you want me to?
Either way is fine with me, Trav. If you want to go ahead and start off, I'll add my opinions as we progress through this video.
Okay. So basically, you know, I saw it. I was proud of them for the fact that they were able to put it together and actually create something and get it, you know, uploaded. That being said, the finished product, I'll give it this: it was more interesting than the current WWE product, and it made more sense than WCW circa 2000, 2001 when Russo was, you know, in charge. So it was more entertaining than that. That being said, there's room for improvement, you know. So I don't want to focus on the negative of it, because when you look at the first WCW show, the first WCW
Right.
Nitro, that had a lot of great moments, but when you compare it to what happened later, you know, you can't really judge what's going to happen from the first show.
That's very true.
But there was just there was some good moments, but then there was some moments that made you go, what is this? You know, what am I watching?
You know, they made reference for anybody that saw the XFL pay-per-view. You know, they had Tully Blanchard come out. Tully Blanchard, a former member of the Four Horsemen, a big star back in the days of the National Wrestling Alliance, and you know, former world tag team champion on multiple occasions with the Enforcer Arn Anderson. But when you have someone like Tully Blanchard, who's way in his 60s, and they talk about how that would basically be a main event on a Dark Side Wrestling show, that's basically tugging on Superman's cape. That's spitting in the wind. They're throwing us under the bus when they really know nothing about what we're getting ready to bring to the wrestling world. Tully Blanchard, without a doubt, is a legend in pro wrestling, but is that someone that you really want to be on your first wrestling show, your first big pay-per-view when you're trying to grab the fans' attentions? I mean, Tully Blanchard was a big star back then. We're the stars now, baby.
Exactly. And I know you grew up 80s wrestling,
yes,
early 90s before I got into it,
right?
And nothing wrong with that, but there was just it had a cartoony kind of feel to it, which there's some good aspects to it. A lot of good wrestlers came out of that era,
right?
But it seemed like a lot of the wrestlers that was in the that showed up in the XFL, they were from eras prior to that. You're talking like 60s, 70s.
Right.
And then you start getting into like, nobody knows who that is now,
Right.
A lot of the newer fans, they as much as we want them to know who that is, a lot of them don't.
And that's what is the problem with the current generation of wrestling fans, is they don't know the actual history of pro wrestling, And a lot of fans today, they see the WWE, which without a doubt is the biggest wrestling company in the world. But that's not the only wrestling company there is. There's a lot of great wrestlers in New Japan Pro Wrestling. There's a lot of great wrestlers in Ring of Honor. There's a lot of great wrestlers in the National Wrestling Alliance, and so forth and so on. We could sit here all night and name different federations, from the ones that are on television, Impact, for example, to the local groups, that wrestle at the local fire departments on Saturday nights. There's a lot of great wrestlers in the world, make no mistakes. But what we're trying to do, and what we are going to do, is set us on the next level. We're taking the Dark Side Wrestling Federation to the next level. We're not worried about something that happened 25 years ago in the NWA. We're focusing on who the top star in pro wrestling is really going to be.
Yeah. And we don't want to do any retreads. My personal favorite era of wrestling had to be the mid 90s, because and I use, when I say attitude era, I use it collectively, like people just generally had more attitude during that era. But attitude era of WWE, I'm personally not a fan of that era, because it just seemed like there was a lot of fluff and no substance. A lot of great wrestlers came out of that era, but when you look at towards the end of it, I guess when they kind of got into like, what is it, ruthless aggression,
right?
When like John Cena, Randy Orton, and Batista, when they started showing up, it's like, man, what is this? But my attitude era, I think this is well known in my circle. It might not be well known to some of my YouTube fans, but I watched WCW from pretty much like, I think you got me into it in about 95.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
So, and I was on and off during that time when the NWO started. When that all went down, when Robster called me and he's like Hulk Hogan just went heel, and I had been a big Hulk Hogan fan as a kid, because I was a kid, and bright colors and big dude, he always won, and he was like a real life superhero, and so I was involved into his character, which I was Sting, the Steiner brothers, Lex Luger. I was into a lot of other wrestlers too, but when Hulk Hogan went heel, I started watching it. I got invested. I started watching it daily and trying to see what was going on. And for me, when I think of good, when I think of good wrestling, that's what I want to see, and not just the NWO, because I get people criticizing me for that too, where it's like, you're just in it for the NWO. When you look at like Raven's Flock back in the day, and I know that grunge era.
Didn't mean to interrupt you, Trev.
No,
I'm
no,
very
you're good,
sorry.
you're good.
I know that's rude, but
No, no.
you know, a lot of our YouTube fans might not know this, but you just mentioned Ravens Flock.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Brad Lodi Kane happens to be a friend of mine. You know, the sign guy from Ravens Flock has a big training center down in Charlotte, North Carolina, and does a lot of wrestling events for a local group that me and Trevor are accustomed with in Mount Airy. So, you know, and Brad could be watching this right now, but that was a big era. You know, Ravens Flock had a lot of great talent. You know, you Billy Kidman, for example. You had Heavy Metal Van Hammer once upon a time. And I'll let you get back to saying what you were going to say, Trev. But once again, Lodi Kane is a friend of ours. And if you're watching, Lodi, we hope to see you soon, buddy.
Yep. Yeah, just that. I know the grunge era has passed, but that style, you look at it and it's like this works, and it never went out of style. What happened was, when you look at the storyline of the NWO, you basically just you had people that they were watching the WWE and they would see a storyline go in and out in like a couple weeks or maybe a month or something, and then they go on to something new. The NWO was like a big storytelling. Sting, when he for his WCW World Heavyweight title against Hollywood Hogan, that storyline went a year, and they, WWE, they haven't really done anything to that degree, and I don't think I don't want to say it's beyond them, but for whatever reason they don't want to go that route, and for me, I mean that's good storytelling. That's a year's worth of content right
Absolutely.
there. And I know some people would disagree about the ending of Starrcade '97 and all that mess. We watched that back in Lower Allisonia.
Yes.
Live and pay-per-view.
Yes, we did.
We watched it, and I was blown away. I was like, man, that's great. And then Sting won, and I was like, okay, this is setting up a new. I didn't expect the NWO to go away because it was so big.
Right.
I thought maybe they would disband it a little bit, and but the point was like that. That was good storytelling. There were characters that you were involved in storyline wise, and that you wanted to see. But with WWE, it was just like, okay, this this person's in and they're fighting a little bit and then they're gone, and they just move on. It's like a faster paced.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that, but it's you can't get into a character if there's not going to be a possibility. There's a possibility of them not being there a couple weeks from now.
There has to be an emotional attachment between you and their persona.
Right.
And I agree with you 100% on that. Oddly enough, Trav, me and my cousin Troy, who used to wrestle in the IWA as Gamma Gateman, we actually had this discussion a few nights ago where he was mentioning back in the old NWA Mid-Atlantic days how they used to run storylines week after week after week, and he made a mention of when Sergeant Slaughter was in the NWA, and they were leading up to a Starrcade, and that this went on for like 26 weeks, which is half a year, but every week it was more and more added to it, and it led up to at the time the NWA's biggest pay-per-view of the year was Starrcade, and how, like you were saying, that's so missed now. You don't have factions that are together for that long a period of time. You think back to, in my opinion, the WWE lost, a ton of money and just really blew up a great gimmick with the Wyatt family.
Yes, I was going to talk about that.
Go ahead, feed off that, Trav.
I was going to say that, you have a good character, Bray Wyatt, and you run for it. It's like he could have potentially been, and I don't want to say on the same level, but close to being the next Undertaker character.
Yes.
They could have just went and made him darker and darker and just went with that. But you've seen here recently in these vignettes that he's doing, it's like, what is this? They've totally changed his character, and he looks like a host of a kiddie show, and you're like, why? I can understand if they took Chavo Guerrero back in the day, somebody that wasn't doing anything and doing something with him, but Bray Wyatt worked. Why would you crap on that?
The fans pushed for it for such a long time. Such a great gimmick. And, at one point, he actually won the World's Heavyweight Championship. I do believe it was at a Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, if memory serves me correctly. And they basically had him drop the title a month later to Randy Orton.
Oh.
And that's another thing that bothers me. Me and Trav talked about it. Me and my cousin Troy's talked about it. It irks me how much they used to change the world title belt when you have people with no wrestling talent like John Cena, who was a 16-time world champion, tied with the Nature Boy Ric Flair, who arguably could be the greatest wrestler of all time, even though he never beat me or the Trav, and Rick knows that's true. But, and then you have Randy Orton being, I think, a 13-time world champion now. Back in the old days when you were won or given the world title, you had the championship for months at a time. Back in the old days, it was literally years. And that was the whole point of being in wrestling, was to chase the world champion. Now, they changed the belts around too much. And I know there's different federations, but it irks me too that, for example, the WWE, you have the SmackDown Live Tag Team Champions and then the Raw Tag Team Champions.
Yeah.
How could there be two World Tag Team Champions in the same group? I mean, to me, that doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, you've got brand separation, but it's all under the same flagship. Right. So what's the point? It's the same junk. It's the same stuff. It's just you've got two sets because it's on two different channels. Why? Like who? That's just stupid.
It is.
That's terrible. Terrible idea. That's what our championships. I'm hoping. We've always tried to take care of our championships. Occasionally stuff happens. You give it. Somebody wins it that doesn't necessarily deserve it, but then they get squashed. They get beat. Somebody else gets it. But every week, or every time I look at their website, which I was actually on their website yesterday, I think. Look, I was looking at their roster, and I was just going through saying, if I was running this company, who would I keep and who would I toss? 90% of the people that they have working there, I would toss.
Right.
There was literally like maybe 5 people that I would keep, and I'm like, why? Like you want to build stars, but it seems like okay. That just reminded me of something that I wanted to touch on.
Go ahead, shoot on it, baby.
Okay.
We're live. Woo!
Here's the difference between WCW and which I know WCW, they didn't, a lot of stars didn't come out, but of WCW and WWE had superstars in the mid 90s, but the current WWE product, they do not want superstars. They want stars. And the reason that they don't want superstars is because a Rock or a Hulk Hogan, or I'll throw in Kevin Nash because he's debatable, but they could go anywhere else. They could go Ring of Honor,
right?
All Elite Wrestling, and they're still superstars. But if they're not superstars, if they're just stars, they can't go anywhere else. They have to rely on the WWE, and that's what the WWE wants. They don't want people that are bigger than them.
Right.
And that's kind of why I like WCW, is because you had people that were bigger than the sport. Right now there's John Cena and Brock Lesnar.
Right.
And personally, I don't care for either one of them. I don't see what people see in them. But that's it. They had CM Punk, and they knew that he was bigger than the sport, and they were scared of that, and they got rid of him because he wouldn't follow orders.
And that's true, and that's the difference, I think, between the stars of WCW and people like that, because you can sit around, and I could ask any wrestling fan, anybody that's watching us right now here on YouTube, name 10 great John Cena matches.
Yeah.
I dare you. Can you do it? But when you think about Nature Boy Rick...
That one that he broke his nose, that was a great match.
I enjoyed it.
Laughed. I clapped. Anyway.
Well, there was a SummerSlam where Brock Lesnar beat him up for about 20 minutes straight. That was one of my favorite John Cena matches. But, Ric Flair, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Sting, the Steiner Brothers, the Midnight Express, the Rock and Roll Express, the Skyscrapers, the Four Horsemen. I mean, you could go on and on and on and on for another hour and 20 minutes on this video and still not even touch some of the top matches that the NWA/WCW had in its heyday. And that is the big difference.
And I know they got criticized for some of their matches. Like, you had a Goldberg Hogan match on a Nitro that people were like, there was no build up to it. It should have been a pay-per-view match. I would have been like, hey, that's great. It gets people talking, and there's, and it put butts in seats.
Yes, it did.
And they got criticized for bringing in all these celebrities. I think I don't know if you could consider Beetlejuice from the what is it, the Howard Stern show?
Right.
He was on it, and then I can't think of his name. The guy from Scream that won the...
David Arquette.
David Arquette. See, it's like, you can't even remember their names because they're nobodies.
Right.
But he was a Hollywood star. He won the WCW World Title, and people crapped all over it. But then you have, you have in WWE now, you got Ronda Rousey, who's a celebrity, and she's winning. She won the title, didn't she?
Yeah, she was the world champion. She just recently lost the belt to Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. Yeah, and so they're not CM Punk. Can't think of his name. The guy that started off as a reality star. The Miz?
The Miz. The Miz started off as a reality star. A reality TV star. They brought him in, and now he's a wrestler.
Right.
Quote unquote. So it's like, they would criticize WCW for doing these things, but now they're doing it now, and you don't see you see a lot of run-ins. There's no definitive 3 counts. There's a lot of like bull crap to endings. And it's like they're not practicing what they preached back in the day, and they're becoming everything that WCW was that was bad. Now they're becoming that.
And something else I think they're missing is and maybe we're just patting WCW on the back, but that's what we grew up on. That's what we were fans of. WCW. What was really cool about them is they brought in stars from other federations, and not just regular stars, as Trav was saying. They brought in the superstars. They brought in the Great Muta from Japan. They brought in Kensuke Sasaki and Jushin Thunder Liger. And that was before the days of the internet and paper, big pay-per-views where you could watch stuff from other places. This was wrestling stars that we've only read about in wrestling magazines. People we had heard of but we never seen, and that's what WCW did different. They brought these people to life. Antonio Inoki. I could go down the list of more superstars, and then they brought in the superstars from Mexico. La Parca, Conan, which you can debate how big of a star he was, but in Mexico, a big superstar. And sometimes that didn't play off good here in America, but yet here was these big stars that you'd heard about for years, and now you're actually getting to see.
Yeah, Psychosis and Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero. These guys. I remember watching WCW back in the day, and I was involved in the NWO storyline. I was invested in it, and Sting, and you wanted to see what was going on there. And at the time, when the luchadors were wrestling, you were like, oh man, I can't wait until get to the big guys.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, the luchador matches, those are some of the best matches in wrestling history, not just WCW, but WWE, everything. Those were some of the best matches I've ever seen, and I know you can you can go to All Japan Pro Wrestling and you can watch that, but that style, the WCW Cruiserweights, it was like a good balance between what we expect to see in pro wrestling and some luchador moves.
Right.
It was like a sprinkling of luchador moves, and that balance just made it perfect. It made it watchable, and now it's like you could tell that they were committed and that they were into it, that they wanted to be there. You watch a match on WWE now, and it looks like they're just like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have this match, and so I can get paid, and I'm gonna go home and not think about it. It's like it's all throwaway.
It is. I mean, without a doubt, they got some incredible talent, but what are they doing with it?
Right. Yeah, the people, AJ Styles, and is it Finn Balor?
Yes,
Is that how you
Finn
pronounce
Balor.
it? Okay, because when I first saw it, it looked kind of Frenchy, and I was like, Finn Balor? What is that? But Finn Balor, those two guys should be at the main event status. They should be at the end of the card, but instead they're just they're being mismanaged, especially when Balor had the demon gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
That was great. They should have ran with that. That worked.
A great theme song, great persona. I mean, just a great gimmick, like Trav said. And oddly enough, Trav was mentioning the phenomenal AJ Styles and Finn Balor. Both of them guys at one time were actually the leader of the Bullet Club over in Japan. So shout out to the club. I am the East Coast leader, of course, but shout out to them. And great wrestlers. I mean, you can think back to his days starting out in NWA Wildside, then signing the bigger contract with NWA TNA at the time, and how they pushed him. I mean, without a doubt, AJ Styles, just a phenomenal athlete, head and shoulders above the rest of the talent. Possibly, arguably, one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. And, for what he did there, going to Ring of Honor, being a champion there, going to New Japan Pro Wrestling, being one of the few Americans to win the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, now coming to the WWE. I mean, AJ Styles is definitely one of the best in the business.
And was it in the WWE? I can't remember if it was WWE or TNA when they took AJ Styles and they tried to make him like a pseudo Ric Flair.
Yes, that was actually in TNA, and
TNA?
Ric Flair had came into TNA, and they were running a gimmick which they were calling Fortune, and they had kind of turned AJ heel, gave him the robe, and was trying to make him like I guess a 2000s version of Ric Flair, and for all intents and purposes, it didn't work. I mean, nothing wrong with rubbing shoulders with the Nature Boy Ric Flair, one of the greatest of all time, but I mean, come on, it's AJ Styles.
Right, and it just seems like they, for some reason I could have swore that was WWE, but yeah, you are right. But it just seems like they take characters or wrestlers that are already set, and that are already defined, and they have a gimmick and it works, a personality, and then they want to turn that into something else. Who was the other guy in TNA that kind of went Macho Man?
Oh, Jay Lethal.
Jay Lethal.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool if you do it for like one show or like maybe a month, like that's fine. It's kind of like here's a what's the word? Kind of like a. It's just an homage. But then when you constantly that's his character now. You're always going to be comparing him to the previous star.
Right.
So.
And oddly enough, Trav, a lot of the YouTube fans probably know this, but I'm going to shoot on it for a second.
Mm-hmm.
They actually did the same gimmick. Every wrestling fan knows the Mega Powers.
Mm-hmm.
Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, and then how Elizabeth came in and how Macho knocked her off, and Macho was concerned about the match, and Hogan went and got her. There was kind of that little twisted love triangle going on. So TNA does the same thing several years down the road. You had the Black Machismo, Jay Lethal doing the Macho Man gimmick pretty much, and then you have his best friend, the Guru, Sanjay Dutt, and Sanjay has a crush on Jay's girlfriend, SoCal Val. So Jay asks her to marry him, and of course she says yeah, and they play this out. And Sanjay pretends to be happy, but on camera views every little bit, he gives the look, and he's not really happy, and he's giving Jay Lethal the dirty looks and everything. And of course, when they do the big marriage, when they're getting ready to get married, what happens? Big shock. Sanjay attacks him from behind. And that leads up to actually a great match. They had a ball and chain ladder match on a TNA pay-per-view, which was very underrated. It was a really good ladder match. But, we done seen that 20 years before.
Right. Yeah. It's like, why are we redoing this?
Right. And I mean, we're getting emails even as we're talking live here. The fans are just eating up, everything that we've been talking about, everything we've been doing. We're just having a great time. The DSW is running strong. Wrestling in general is getting more and more popular by the day.
And I mean, it's like you don't want to retread the storylines. You can say like I was heavily invested into the Outsiders. I love Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. So if you want to do a tribute to that, you would have like one big dude and one one big dude that's a little bit slower than the other guy, and then you have a slightly smaller guy. But that's not like that's been done countless times. That's that's one of the staples of tag team wrestling. It's like you have a big dude and then you have a little dude. But that's not taking the whole storyline and redoing it. That would be ill advised, I think. Or like I had always compared Blade and Onyx to Undertaker and Kane because it's two big dudes in a tag team together. But it's like. You don't you take elements that you like, but you don't just redo storylines. I mean that's just dumb. But yeah, I personally thought the Jay Lethal, the Macho Man gimmick, it was cool for about 10 seconds, and then after that it was like, no, like this is sad.
Yeah, like you were saying earlier, they're trying to give a different persona to someone that we were already familiar with. Great example, in my opinion, is when we were lucky enough to sign the Ghostface Killer, the Icon Scream, to Dark Side Wrestling. I mean, here was a person that needed no introduction. He didn't need any change. People knew him from the movies. He was a international superstar. Mm-hmm. Why change it? I mean, he had the look, he had the gimmick, and we just basically turned the camera on and said, go be yourself, go do your thing.
Yeah, and he built his own his own legacy, and people still talk about it to this day, and that's saying something.
Yeah,
absolutely. From just being picked up and thrown in. Of course, I know he did make an appearance in was it LWW 6?
I think so. Yes, it was. Scream was on that pay-per-view event.
Yeah.
Took a little time off from wrestling after that to work on another movie, and then a little bit later he emerged at the very first Dark Side Wrestling pay-per-view event and was on every show, every TV taping we did, and went on to arguably be probably the biggest DSW superstar of all time.
Definitely.
Two-time DSW World Heavyweight Champion, multiple-time U.S. Champion.
Mm-hmm. Should we?
Yeah, I guess we better. We've been discussing a lot of other things, but let's get to the point that we're here.
It's all good. I mean, it's stuff that it needs to be said.
Absolutely, and I know the fans are just digging it up.
Oh yeah. We're gonna take a moment to talk about the XFL. I know they've been referring to LA as Lower Allisonia. which, we did start off in Allisonia. We had 3 showings. We had 3 pay-per-views in Lower Allisonia. But then since then, from that, we moved to the real LA. And we did 4, 5, and 6. And then the LWAW went up to 10. So we did 7 tapings there in the LA arena. And then when we went to EWF, EPW, there was at least 3 or 4 locations that we would switch beyond, and then when it became, when the DSW started, and then we joined, we were back in LA, just a few feet from our original broadcasting location.
That's true. It kind of came full circle, but what's really sad, Cisco Heat and Jonathan Lungman, is when you think about LA, I mean, who thinks of Lower Allisonia? We're talking about the real LA. When y'all guys are talking about trailer parks and stuff like that, we're more accustomed to mansions on the hill. I'm not sure what y'all guys consider to be the LA lifestyle, but me and Trav, we got that Beverly Hills 90210 theme going on. So just kind of wonder about that.
So how else do you think we'd be able to afford all of these superstars that we got lined up? Now I know Cisco Heat, he's obviously got some kind of money if he's bringing in Blanchard,
right?
Or Jimmy Valiant and what was it, the Rockers? I think they brought.
Yeah. That was great. Good to see the Rockers.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, all the money in the world is not going to make your product, better than what we have in store. We don't just talk about that lifestyle; we live it.
That's right. It's not a catchphrase.
No.
It's a way of life.
Way of life. We have previously discussed how we came to know the XFL, or I think in the past it was called War Wrestling or FedEx Wrestling. One of their wrestlers, defected to us, wrestled with us, and for the EPW, and I know recently in the XFL's first pay-per-view, they had basically said that they were throwing Metalhead out. That he had been banned. Was that
banned for life?
Banned for life.
Yeah.
And I feel partially responsible because I brought Metalhead in, and he wrestled with us. He didn't make many appearances, unfortunately, but we have talked. Me and Rockstar have talked, and we've talked to the DSW booking committee, and I'm here to say that Metalhead, if you want a spot in our organization, if you want to wrestle, then you are guaranteed matches. And I know he didn't win a title during the last pay-per-view,
right?
So he's not guaranteed a spot. But I am personally saying I am guaranteeing him a spot. So Metalhead, I get loyalty. You want to be loyal. You want to be loyal to your home federation, but you have to know when you want to make that choice to blaze your own path, to do things your own way. So, brother, you step on up, got your T-shirt right here. You can come play with the big boys at DSW.
That's right, Metalhead. Why be loyal to people who's not loyal to you?
Exactly.
And there's one thing we preach in the DSW is loyalty. And you want people that stick closer than a brother.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. And
And, it seems to me like I actually remember Metalhead being on a few episodes of the NWA West Virginia promotion. The the NWA actually has different branches throughout North America, and they do have a branch in West Virginia. And I do recall Metalhead actually appearing on several of their events.
Oh, definitely. So, we've actually got a local fan favorite that might, if he accepts, then we're going to have him join us, and I'm sure that'll have some eyes, have some more eyes watching us that we're already going to be.
Yeah.
So, but it would help if I could read this thing.
All right, folks. We've been discussing a lot of great stuff, but let's get back to the point at hand. This past Wednesday night, Charlotte, North Carolina, we had a great time. They had a lot of great stuff going on in North Carolina over the last week. The Crockett Cup was down there represented by Ring of Honor. A big show for that. Congratulations to the new NWA World Tag Team Champions, by the way. But, the DSW rolled into town for this lineup here, a non-televised event, and that's what we're here to update all the fans that wasn't there in the arena that night to talk about what went down. And we had a great lineup. We had a great time being back in Flyer country, Viars country, as I like to call it. Inside joke. But anywho, Trav, if you want to go ahead and kick us off,
So this starts the final matches for title declarations. These are the champions that are going to go into the eFed holding the title. So going into our first match of the evening, we had the LWW Women's Champion, Rowdy, going up against the DSW Women's Champion, Tough Adder.
This was a great match to kick off a exciting night of wrestling action. Basically it come down to a move for move, and I was excited to be able to be backstage to see these athletes portray and go over and move for move, counter hold for counter hold, and it was just a great matchup.
And so Rowdy was able to get that LWW women's title. She had never had it before, but she was able to capture it. Tough Adder, we're not exactly for sure who that is or where she came from, but she managed to grab the DSW title. But both of these titles were basically on the line that being unified into the DSWi internet for the online onslaught pay-per-view. And it was Rowdy that came out on top. And Rowdy's she is my cousin, for everybody that knows or doesn't know. She's got some fight in her. Tough Adder, I think Tough Adder, maybe she didn't know what she was walking into when she accepted that match, or when she was thrown into it. It really wasn't her choice.
Right.
So,
and I'll say this again, going back to the early pay-per-view events for the LAAW, Rowdy was actually one of our nitro dancers, someone that had kind of trained in aerobics and, kind of the cheerleading type stuff. And I think that she just had more flexibility to be able to do maneuvers that the other competitor just wasn't able to do, just because of her training and being more limber and more agile with her maneuvers.
She's definitely got a bit of a mean streak. So not somebody you want to mess with. So yeah, Rowdy walked away with the DSWi women's title. And we'll move on to our second match of the evening. I cannot see this thing for crap.
We had the DSW Hardcore Champion Lucas taking on the EPW Hardcore Champion Justin Payne, obviously in a hardcore match for the DSWi Hardcore Championship.
So apparently that last hardcore match where Justin Payne, he was declared the winner. Apparently that match did officially end, and then he went right into this match with Lucas. So apparently he was worn out from that match. That's because on any other day, I don't know if Lucas would have walked away from that. Lucas, he's got the strength. I would say that he was more of a powerhouse than Justin Payne. Justin Payne can take a lot of pain, but he can dish it out as well too. This was not a squash match or it was not a walk in the park for Lucas. He had to fight for this, and he barely got out with his life.
I tell you, it was full of weapons and all kinds of weird stuff that you can imagine a hardcore match would be. Justin Payne, always a big fan of the thumbtacks, and I know Lucas at one point during the match got a spine buster onto the thumbtacks and come up with the thumbtacks sticking in his back and blood trickling down. But Justin Payne is a more unorthodox type of wrestler. You really never know what you're going to get. I mean, you can almost kind of say in a nice way the dude's kind of crazy.
He walked into the match, battered and bloodied, and he was covered in barbed wire. So I mean, I don't even think he knew where he was.
It was odd. It was strange. I know the fans in Charlotte was shocked. I was shocked. It was just weird. I mean, that's all you can say. It was weird. But Lucas is a tough guy. We think back, there was a DSW pay-per-view. I'm sure some of you fans might have seen it. At least we hope you've seen it. Where Lucas
better have seen it.
Yeah. If not, you need to watch it right now. After you watch our video, of course, and like it, and write me and Trav some fan mail. But where Lucas literally was powerbombed on top of a car on the hood, and it smashed it down. I mean, you can say what you want, folks. That was not gimmick. That was the real deal.
We had onlookers in the back, and even at the camera angle, up in the camera area, we were shocked. We were like, "Holy crap!" I know you were doing announcing, and you were like, "He's not going to be powerbombed on that car." Right. Oh yeah.
Lucas is tough, man. I mean, this proves it. Lucas walked away with the championship.
And again, I'll say it. He walked in and he fit like a glove, and it's just like he could dish out a lot of punishment, but he could take a lot too, and that earned him the DSWi Hardcore Championship.
And one thing that I really liked about Lucas, Trav, is during the early days when he came into the DSW, he was very humble.
Yeah.
He was one of them people that didn't mind sitting around and taking advice from the veterans. He would ask, how did this match go, or what do you think about this certain maneuver, or did you like how I did this? And he was lucky enough during the early time, as I'm sure you remember, Trav, to actually being teamed up with a great veteran in the DSW, the Midnight Creeper, and they actually were the World Tag Team Champions at one time, and they just fit really, really well together. And I'm glad to see Lucas have this opportunity here in the DSWi.
And when he was involved in the with the Travelers, part of me wanted him in so that I could learn from him, because he had some stuff that he could teach me, but I wanted to teach him some stuff that would kind of solidify him as a superstar, which he didn't need much, but he was just a great star all around, a good person to be with, good person to hang around with. All right, so in our third match, we are going for the DSWi tag team titles. We got Mr. Friday Night and the Crush, the LWW champions, going up against Jamar and Overdose, the EWF champions, also going up against Blade and Onyx, the Dark Angels, the EPW champions, against Joe Fortune and Billy Bob, the current DSW tag team champions at the time. So this is a 4-way tag team match for the DSWi. You've got all 4 federations tag team titles, and you've got probably the cream of the crop of the tag team division or divisions from each from each federation. This it was kind of a hard match to follow at times, but oh man, like we saw some crazy stuff. Almost all of these guys. Almost all of these guys, you know, they've tagged previously, and that, you know, they know each other and they know their opponents. So it was like veterans going up against veterans, and it was a hard fought match.
It was a very hard fought match, and you know, just to see the different guys in the ring at different times. You know, there was a great point in the match, as I recall, some of the fans talking about where Overdose was in the ring with the Money Man Joe Fortune, and Overdose was getting ready to go for a Hurricane Rana, and obviously, you know, that made me think back to a pay-per-view where Kamikaze gave him one on an old EPW show where Overdose hurt his neck, and kind of being worried how that would turn out. And as he was getting ready to go for the Frankensteiner or Hurricane Rana, if you will, as he wrapped his legs around Joe Fortune and was getting ready to do the backflip, Billy Bob come off the other side of the ring rope with a leg drop right on Overdose. And that was something that, you know, I hadn't seen for years in pro wrestling. And just the fact that Joe Fortune and Billy Bob could, you know, maybe had that already planned out in the back of their mind. I mean, it was amazing.
Definitely. Billy Bob, you know, of course, he's used to climbing trees back up in the Ozark Mountains.
Right.
So the turnbuckles to him, they're nothing. He's like a fish to water in the air. You got to watch out for him.
Yes, and you know, he's another one that is very unorthodox and can hit you with all kinds of moves that you never see coming because he's on a different mindset than everyone else. You know, like Trav was saying, growing up in the Ozark Mountains, you know, hunting for food, just the stuff that they do up that way is different than what we were accustomed to, and just a very unique individual.
Yeah, you're not going to see a moonsault or anything super coordinated because he's not the most coordinated person. But you're going to see like a frog splash kind of thing, you know, coming off the turnbuckle. Like that's his character.
Right.
So, very very wild and unorthodox wrestler.
Yes, he was.
I believe that's your line, but
yeah.
But
you're reading my cue card, Strad.
My bad. But Blade and Onyx, they walked away the DSWi tag team champions. I don't think that match could have gone any other way. Blade and Onyx have just cut a path of destruction. You know, we've talked about them before, where if you want to compare them to any kind of tag team in WWE history, Undertaker and Kane, and you know these guys, I don't know if Undertaker and Kane could go up against them and survive. I mean, these guys are unstoppable.
They really are. I mean, like Travis said, they run amok through you know, EPW, through the DSW. They're still molly-whopping people, and that was a big word that my cousin used to use all the time, molly-whopping. But, you know, I mean, it was just some total destruction, like Trav said.
No, I've defeated both of them in singles competition, but you get them together, right off the top of my head, I don't know if I ever defeated their tag team. And I remember once they got the tag team titles in the DSW, they had them for quite some time,
Yes,
and even
yes.
EPW, EWF. You know, they would run with those tag team titles.
Well, you know, speaking of that, you know, they are the only tag team in the history of this stuff here to hold all 3 sets of tag team titles.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is amazing.
That's amazing. That speaks to their dominance.
Yes, tough guys, no doubt about it.
They will be a formidable tag team, you know, in going into Online Onslaught.
Yes, that's definitely, you know, a team to keep your eye on. And I'm, from one, am looking to see, you know, hopefully them going up against, say, the Midnight Express or the Midnight Creeper and the Avenging Angel Azrael. You know, exciting stuff, man. And
Mr. Friday Night and the Crush, you know, they went into this match looking for gold, looking for blood, because, you know, I think they still have that chip on their shoulder to where they were like, you know, we were in this back in the day, and then, you know, stuff happened and they had to leave. So I think they were here to prove a point, and I think this loss is just going to further that anger in them.
I agree. You know, they're definitely out for blood now. They wasn't victorious this past Wednesday night, but definitely now they are blood. They are sharks that have smelt blood in the water, and they're coming.
Definitely. So our fourth match is for the DSWi World Television title. We had Master E with the EPW TV title going up against Dr. Vamp with the DSW TV title. So, and again, Dr. Vamp, I'm not well versed on this character, but we both know Master E very well.
Yes.
What? Any comments on the Dr. Vamp?
Dr. Vamp was a big star that we signed with the DSW. He was very popular in the IWA, the International Wrestling Association. Had a great career over in Japan and Asia, over that side of the world. Dr. Vamp came into the DSW as a former three-time SCWA Egyptian heavyweight champion. He was from Romania. Dr. Vamp was just one of them guys. You know, he come in, he had a great finishing maneuver. He called it the Vamp Buster. A lot of wrestling fans might call it the Stunner, a diamond cutter, if you will. But, you know, Dr. Vamp was very versed in wrestling skill. He had a great legacy. Master E, me and Trav have talked about it several times. You know, here was a guy that really deserved more than he got. You know, it wasn't by his own accord. You know, it was just oversight by the booking committee, wrong place at the wrong time type deal. But a very humble guy, and I'm glad to see him, you know, get another shot at being the star that we all knew he could always be if given, you know, the ball to run towards the touchdown goal.
And I've been in contact with Master E recently, and he's always been a very easygoing guy. But I think for this run in the DSW Online Onslaught, he's going to be out for blood, and he's going to be out for gold. So I think he realizes that, you know, this is his time to shine, and he's not going to be handed anything. He's going to take what he wants. So that's definitely a guy that we'll have to keep our eye on.
You know, that's very true. And I actually got a text after this matchup. You know, Master E victorious over Dr. Vamp in Charlotte on Wednesday night. And Master E, Udale, if you will, actually sent me a text that plainly said, from now on, what I want, I take, and what I don't, I'll break. You know, that's some heavy stuff right there. That's as heavy as Bella finding out that Edward was a vampire.
Nice.
I threw that in for you, Brooke. I know you're watching.
Our fifth match for that evening was for the DSWi United States Heavyweight title. And again, you know, I walked out of the pay-per-view before last thinking it's like I didn't have. I thought I didn't win that title, but because of circumstances, you know, the title was handed to me, and I'm put in a situation where I'm having to defend it. So Taz won the LWW US Heavyweight title, with the title that he wanted from the very beginning.
Right.
That he tried to take from me on several occasions when he showed up. He managed to capture that title. So it was him up against Hoofbite, who had the EWF US Heavyweight title, and me, and I had the DSW US Heavyweight title. And so, you know, Taz came out, and he grabbed the mic, and he basically said that, you know, his whole reason for coming was to get that title, and that was his mission, and that was his end goal, and that that's all that he wanted to accomplish. And so he announced his retirement that night, and he called out Ray from the DSW. Ray walks out, and Taz handed him the title and was basically like, he's like, this is yours, you defend it, and he walked out. So the championship committee, there was buzz in the headsets, and they were basically like, okay, well, as long as there's a defender, we're going to allow this, and it was Ray with the LWW US heavyweight title going up against me and Hoofbite with our championships.
That's true, man. One thing we probably should address is on our last show that we did here on YouTube, it appeared that Steve Stryker, the Sinister one, had won the U.S. title, and we need to address that. I know we talked about it earlier, but we didn't go into detail.
Right.
And what had happened is that after reviewing that tape, the championship committee had deemed that there was some foul play going on. Like Trav said, there's always been a little controversy around his matches, his title matches. Well, on this night, it was deemed that the referee of the match was not sanctioned by DSW and was actually someone that was paid off by Sinister Steve Stryker. Steve Stryker, as we know, came from the state mental hospital. And this was one of his cronies, one of his buddies, someone that gives him extra ice cream, pudding pops, and stuff like that. I'm not really sure, but there was an investigation done by the championship committee, and they basically deemed that the Trav should have been the rightful winner and stripped Steve Stryker of the U.S. title. Therefore, the Trav was the champion of that match.
And I can't really blame Steve Stryker because I've had a lot of luck when it comes to world heavyweight titles. And I don't want to call it luck, but if you look back on it, like that's right place, right time, or for whatever reason, I somehow get I end up with titles. So there's a little bit of skill involved, a little bit of skill.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. But so yeah, I feel for Steve Stryker, but in the same respect, that was his doing, that ultimately cost him the match. So better luck next time, buddy, I guess.
And this was an amazing matchup to see these competitors in the ring for the U.S. Championship. And the Trav was going move for move. Here's a guy that's been world champion on 5 occasions, who has years of experience. Has been the leader of some of the biggest factions in the history of pro wrestling. The Travelers, for example. And this just really went on. And Trav, I can sit here and put you over, but there's no promotion like self promotion. So why don't you tell the fans at home how this match went down?
Well, as you know, me and Hoofbite, we were allied in the, I believe it was EWF. It was either EWF or EPW when we restarted the Generation X. We called it the GX 2000, and we had our shirts. And Hoofbite was he was the first person, if I'm not mistaken, the first person that I recruited to go into this new Generation X. And the whole point of the GX 2000 at the time was, you had these top stars that were doing their own thing and basically taking care of themselves, and you had these guys on the bottom that were kind of hungry for gold. And I said, okay, well, let's take these guys that aren't doing anything and let's ally with them. And so I took these people that weren't really doing anything on the card, and I turned them into a super group. And for a time, we kind of, we demolished the competition, and we just took over, and it became its own thing. That was probably one of my favorite times in wrestling. It just felt good. It eventually we were disbanded just because we had too many people. We just had so many people, and you couldn't really divide up the matches properly. But it was a hell of a time, man. I enjoyed it immensely. And looking back on it, it was to me that was good TV. I know I'm pretty sure some other people would look back on it and be like, eh. But it was kind of like if the NWO was kind of I don't know what you'd call us, because we were, to us, we were faces, but I guess to everybody else we were heels because we were doing underhanded things,
Right.
running in the match and low blow people, so that somebody could get the title. So I guess officially we were heels, but we were heels with style. So
You were so bad that you were cool.
Exactly.
Kind of like the NWO, kind of like the Bullet Club, kind of
Exactly.
like the Shield. They wanted you to be booed, but the fans saw through it and said, he's so cool. I mean, he's so bad that he's cool.
Exactly.
He's someone that I would like, because basically when you're a heel, you're coming off as like a bad guy, but in the back of anybody's mind, you're getting one up for the little guy. The person at work that's being mistreated, that works a little harder than everyone else, but for some reason is being held back. In the back of your mind, you're like, well, that should be my spot. So through the world of professional wrestling, not only were we able to think it, but we were able to do it.
Once we were disbanded, I was wearing blue and I was using the Iceman persona. Once we were disbanded, I went back to the Traveler persona, and I did not go back to the Iceman persona until recently. We're with these pay-per-views that we're doing now.
That's true.
And so, you're talking like 99, 2000, 2001. So like about 18 years without going back to that. Like that's insane. Because whenever I have a fan come up, I mean, of course you get, you have, Traveler fans and current DSW fans. But whenever I have somebody just randomly come up, 9 times out of 10, it's, you're the Iceman. And that's what they're, that's what they like and what they remember. So,
and I'm kind of like the Trav. I'm asked a lot sometimes. During interviews. If you see some of our interviews on like havittv.com, for example. When people ask us questions, and I'm asked several times, does it bother you when fans come up, if you're in an airport or you're in a restaurant or wherever, and they ask you for your autograph or they bother you, does that bother you? And my reply is this: it will bother me when they stop, because when they stop, I'll realize that I'm no longer a star, that I no longer matter. And as long as they keep remembering who I am, because basically without the fans, you are what makes us what we are. You are the ones that buy our merchandise, that buy tickets to come see us perform in the different arenas and states. You're the ones that are sitting now watching us on this YouTube channel on television. Basically the fans make the stars. We just took that to the next level.
Exactly. So yeah, I was able to, of course I know Hoofbite, so I was able to, wrestle against him effectively. Ray, I mean, I know Ray too, and he's the guy you got to watch out for. But at the end of the day, it was me that walked away with the DSWi US heavyweight title, and I'm going to try my best to be the best US champion that I can be. I'm gonna try to make the most out of it.
I would say that you're actually making America great again, Trav.
America needs a change, and the Trav, I'm all about change. The Iceman, we want to make things awesome again. We want to make things cool again. That's yeah. But yeah, I'm glad I was able to walk away from that. Our 6th match of the evening was for the DSWi Intercontinental title, and we had Jamar, who was the EWF Intercontinental Champion, going up against Chris Phoenix. the DSW Intercontinental Champion, and Jamar. I have much love for Jamar. He was a great Intercontinental Champion, world heavyweight champion. Great all around wrestler. He brought his A game, and he tried to make the most of every match. And Chris Phoenix, he was just he's just a fun guy to be around. Just a real real party guy. I can never find him out, but
He's very likable.
yeah, very likable.
Just a likable guy. I think we touched on it on our last show. He was just the type of guy that people wanted to be around. People were drawn to him. He just had kind of like a aura about him.
Yeah, he had that style, and he was it's like he fun loving and he was all about the parties and the women, but he didn't put anybody down to try to achieve it. Like he was just all about having fun. Great guy.
He was the guy that was everybody's best friend, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You try to talk to him about deep issues, and he's like, just relax, guy, relax, man.
Yeah, you kind of sound like him in a way.
Yeah, he's very, very similar.
Yeah.
Man, just chill, man.
It's all right.
It's all right. Let it slide, man. And so, two top competitors, but I think Jamar what's the term? He's been in the game just a little bit longer, and he all those matches with Overdose, he knew what to do.
Yeah.
Anything that Chris Phoenix tried, Jamar, he knew a way out of.
Absolutely. He definitely knew more tricks of the trade, and I wasn't shocked by the outcome of this match.
No.
Jamar definitely more powerful, really, than Chris Phoenix. Like you said, Chris was more worried about buying hair gel and stuff like that than he was about actually learning wrestling holds. And Jamar just took it to him and got the victory. And it's sad for Chris Phoenix. I do hope that we'll have the opportunity to see him somewhere down the line. But as we go into our big pay-per-view events for Online Onslaught, if you're not the champions, your spot's not 100% guaranteed. But I hope Chris Phoenix will definitely make an appearance.
Yeah, Jamar's spot. Well, it was already solidified, I think. Where they won the tag team titles at one point, but yeah, since he doesn't have that currently, this solidifies his spot. But yeah, I was thinking. Okay. So now, in our seventh match, and our seventh and final match of the evening, was for the DSWi World Heavyweight Title, and we had Mr. Friday Night, who was the current LWW World Heavyweight Champion, going up against Overdose, who was the EWF World Heavyweight Champion, going up against Blade, who had the EPW World Heavyweight Title, and going up against the phenomenal Robbie Viars, the Rockstar Rob, who had the DSW World Heavyweight Title. And everybody came into the ring. Everybody made their entrances, and all the other matches had been pretty solid, and no real outside stuff. And at the last minute, the booking committee, they sent an announcer down, and they announced Scream as the special guest referee. And I gotta say, Mr. Friday Night, Overdose, Blade, I would hate to go into a match with those three guys as my opponent, because I know that the odds are stacked against me. because Blade and Mr. Friday Night being almost heavyweights or super
Right.
heavyweights, two top guys, and then Overdose is on the opposite end where this match was almost perfectly balanced in a way though, because you've got two powerhouses and then you've got two technical wrestlers. This was a great setup for a match, but then you throw in Scream as a special guest referee, and I gotta say, it seems like the cards were kind of in your favor for this match.
A lot of people would think that, definitely an ace in the hole, if you will. When you think about to the other competitors, like you just said, Mr. Friday Night and I wrestled in the LAAW. Me and Blade have some encounters in Dark Side Wrestling. Overdose and myself never really competed against each other. I think we were in a tag team match once upon a time. Now, make no mistakes, I know all these guys very well, but then you bring in Scream as a special referee. And, everybody knows the history between me and Scream. He was a member of Team Darkside, my greatest ally, one of my bestest friends in the whole wide world. And, but leading up to this match, before it was announced that Scream was going to be the special referee, I sat back at my home and, I looked over old videotapes and I started training even harder. It's no secret. I've been out of the, in-ring competition for quite some time, since having a car wreck several years ago that kind of ended my in-ring career for a while. But, I got a new strength coach. I started training, and I spruced it up. I worked on my endurance. And, a lot of fans might not know this, but I actually started climbing mountains and, just to work on my strength and, my breathing, to lower my heart rate, everything that I could think of, to prepare for this matchup. And the fact of the matter is Mr. Friday Night, a big guy, very, stronger than me. But is he smarter? Then you throw in Blade. Blade has a devastating maneuver, finishing maneuver, the Blade Sharpener. If he hits you with that, no matter who you are, you're going down. And I knew that. So during the course of this matchup, for a few moments, I talked over with Overdose, and we kind of aligned ourselves to work on the two bigger guys to get them out. And we come very close to accomplishing that. But basically, the fans in Charlotte saw what happened. And basically, it came down to the odds was stacked just a little bit in my favor, because when Scream's in the ring, obviously, who's he going to help? So when the moment came, him as the ref, I get ready to come off the rope. I was able to catch Overdose and a perfect 10. Scream kind of is looking over as I grab out the pair of brass knuckles and I nail Mr. Friday Night in the face. And me and Scream get him up and we drop him on his neck for payback for what he did to me all them years ago in Lower Allisonia when he tried to snap my neck. So he's laying outside the ring. We go back in, we work over Overdose. I slap him around a few times and I poke him in the eye and I give a woo. And then I kick him in the stomach and give him the fade to black. Scream gives him the stab and I get the 1, 2, 3 and walk out the champion one more time. And you know what? That's what I deserve, because the other guys will never, ever lace up to the amount of wrestling talent that I have. They are nothing compared to the Rockstar. And what they found out on that night is even something as pretty as a rose still casts a dark shadow. And that's all about the darkness, baby. Bullet Club, we gave it to you. If you want it, come get some more. But the odds are going to be the same. The outcome will always be Mr. Perfect on top. Tell him, Trav.
And all of these guys that walked in, maybe not Blade so much, because Blade still has the, him and Onyx still have the DSWi Tag Team Champions. But Mr. Friday Night, he was out of Wrestling Commission for like 19 years or something. And, he had a grudge on his shoulder. He managed to get the LWW World Heavyweight title. And he walked into this, he knew that if he didn't win this match, that he's not going to have that title, because these aren't going to be in the record books.
Right.
So he knew that he had to win this match in order to maintain this title. So you gotta think it's almost certain that he's going to walk into Online Onslaught pissed off, royally pissed off that he does not have that heavyweight title. And then you look at Overdose. Overdose doesn't really need a reason to be pissed off. He's Publishers Clearinghouse could show up on his front door and he'd be like, "Well, you woke me up in the morning," and he'd be pissed off about that. So you know that he's going to be royally pissed. So and his spot, he's not guaranteed a spot because he doesn't have a title going into Online Onslaught. But he's riled up. He's going to want to be there. He's going to figure out a way to be there. Blade's one of those guys. I think Blade just kind of rolls with the punches. But I hope you didn't step on his toes during the match. Because it's like the sleeping giant. You piss off the Dark Angels, Blade and Onyx. There's going to be punishment for that. So you've got the potential of 3 individuals that are not going to be very happy with you going into Online Onslaught. But that's the name of the game. I'm used to those kind of situations too.
And you know what? That's fine with me because the way I see it, that's just 3 less Christmas cards I have to buy. So it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is they couldn't hang with Team Darkside. This is what it's all about, is being the best. And simply put, you're not.
So we should really stay tuned for the official Online Onslaught pay-per-view to really see where that storyline is heading.
And that's great because you know what? At Online Onslaught, you better hope that you see us before me and Scream sees you, especially if it's dark.
So those were all the matches. Not quite as many matches as we had going in. Not like 20 matches where we had to declare champions for literally everything. But all right, so we'll go over the winners one more time just to kind of what would you call it? Just kind of recap.
Yep.
It looks like Rowdy is going in the women's champion. Lucas is going in the hardcore champion. Blade and Onyx, the Dark Angels, going in tag team champions. Master E is the world television champion. And who else we got, Rockstar?
Yourself, the Iceman Travis Lane, the new DSWi United States Heavyweight Champion. The Intercontinental Championship was won by J-Mar, and me, with a little help from my buddy Scream, walks out the DSWi World Heavyweight Champion. And we're looking forward to going to Online Onslaught to see how this progresses and to see who we get to lay the SmackDown on next.
So all of the champions that were declared, it's 100% guaranteed they are going to be at our show. But there's also the possibility that, some of the people that didn't win champions, or maybe some people that didn't even appear on the show. I don't know. There's got to be at least 1 or 2 that we that didn't get our invitations. They might make. You talk about pissed off.
Right.
If they show up, they're going to be really upset, and it's hard to tell where this is going to go. I see the likelihood of a continuation of past storylines, but this, you've got some real heat going on with these pay-per-views that's going to go into the next one too. So you're already seeing a continuation of storylines from back in the day. So any last comments or?
Yeah, I think there's a few things we need to address really fast here, Trav. Don't forget, fans, if you're in the Virginia area, this Saturday night, May the 11th, you can catch myself and the Trav. We're going to be live for All-Star Wrestling. We're going to make a special appearance at that event. It is the Relay for Life for Giles County. We're going to be in Pearisburg, Virginia, at the Pearisburg Community Center. Okay, we're going to be sitting ringside, right beside the ring, and we're going to be signing autographs and taking pictures with the fans. So if you want to see us in person, come out to that event. Once again, that's going to be this Saturday night, May the 11th, Parisburg, Virginia, at the Parisburg Community Center. Also, me and the Trav are going to be making an appearance in Bristol, Tennessee on June the 1st, as we tickets are going to go on sale for upcoming DSW live broadcast. So you don't want to miss that. And I know the Trav has a few things he wants to talk about concerning his YouTube channel.
You know, I was going to mention this at the beginning, but it was kind of off topic. We got to talk about the Injustice 2 tournament at our local Christiansburg GameStop, and the arrival of Mortal Kombat 11. We got to talk about that. Just to, I got to plug myself a little bit. So yeah, my local GameStop, they said that when Mortal Kombat 11 came out, they were going to have a Injustice 2 tournament, and whoever won the tournament would get a free copy of the game. So I said, well, no entry fee. I'm like, that's worth just showing up and giving it a try. And so yeah, a lot of great competitors showed up, but at the end of the day, it was the Iceman that walked away with the win. And but during the tournament, I'm talking to the guy that had set everything up, and he's like, yeah, man, we were going to give out a free copy of the game, but GameStop decided that would be too much money to hand out. So instead, the Iceman got a free Mortal Kombat T-shirt, which I think it's the same one I bought at Walmart for $5, and and I got a $20 Xbox Live gift card. So I mean, not necessarily a $60 value, but at the end of the day, I was there. I mean, I was getting the game anyway. I already paid it off, so I was getting Mortal Kombat 11, and I won that tournament. Walked away with bragging rights. Hung out with some pretty cool people. Not everybody thought they were all that cool, but I thought they were hilarious. It was a very fun event, and walking away the champion. The first time that they had a tournament like that was for Mortal Kombat X, and they actually let people play Mortal Kombat X before the game came out. And I went with our buddy Chip, and I went down and I played, and I made it to third. And then the guy that I played beat me. Well, then I learned later on he already had the game and he had been practicing. So, and also the guys got in my ear because I was beating everybody with Sub-Zero, and they were like, oh, you're beating everybody with Sub-Zero, why don't you change characters? So I got a little cocky and I picked Scorpion, and I got my butt handed to me. So that just shows you guys, go with what you know. Don't let people get in your ear. That was a mistake on my part, but those guys had been playing the game and they had been practicing. So, but that didn't go that way this time, because the Iceman walked away with the championship, and I got the win. So that was good.
There you go, folks. Wrestling champion, gaming champion. Is there nothing the Iceman cannot do?
Yeah, I recently did a playthrough of Castlevania. I was expecting more views, because I mean that's one of the hardest games on the NES. But I was expecting more views from having completed such a difficult game. But I think so far only 3 people watched it. So I'm like, okay, well, whatever. But yeah, you should definitely check out some of my other videos where I randomly talk about things or play video games that I haven't played in years, just to see if I can still manage to get through them.
And I think anybody that's ever saw any of them videos will agree that Trav is a true game master.
I recently did a playthrough of Mortal Kombat 1 through Mortal Kombat 4 on different systems, and they got pretty good hits, but I think out of all the hits that I got from those, all the views, I think I only got 1 new subscriber, but hey, it's a slow going process, and you're trying to reach everybody that you can. So maybe one day I'll play that game that everybody wants me to play. I'm not playing Fortnite, by the way. I'm not playing that, but I'll play something that everybody wants to watch, and maybe they'll come pouring in.
There you go. It's definitely building up. It's growing week by week, day by day. The webcasts are really taking off. And also, I just was reminded in my headset, and I actually should have threw this out. As I mentioned, Saturday, May the 11th, Parisburg. Me and the Trev's going to be there signing autographs. Also, Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express, former 5-time NWA World Tag Team Champion and a WWE Hall of Famer, will also be at that show. Some great tickets are still available. Ringside stuff is already sold out, but admission is only $10. So if you're in the area, Saturday night, Parisburg Community Center, doors open at 6:30, bell time 7:30. So we hope to see you there. Come up, say hi, get an autograph, get a picture, get a hug, get 2 hugs, whatever.
What were you saying last time? If they're blonde, you get 3 hugs?
Right. Absolutely. Maybe even my phone number. I don't know.
Nice. All right. Well, I think that we've covered everything. There's some rumors going around, but I don't want to cover them because I don't want to talk about stuff that might not come to pass. So we'll just have to see what Online Onslaught brings, and I think it's starting to rain.
Absolutely.
If there are any legitimacy to the rumors, then we'll do a follow-up video, or we'll talk about it during the pay-per-view itself.
Right.
So, and I wanted to do a video a couple days ago, but the Rockstar wasn't available, and I didn't want to do it without him. So yeah, we're doing it today, and
Yeah, and it's great to be here, and it's great to take part of this new era of the DSW, and I'm excited, and I know the Trav's excited, the fans are getting excited. Like Trav said, we're seeing the resurgence of the DSW T-shirts, of DSW merchandise. We're getting more and more questions, and more people contacting us on social media, on Facebook and Twitter, asking us questions, trying to get inside information, and the YouTube channel's growing more by the day. Random fans are watching, our buddies are watching, and we're just excited. So definitely stay tuned, because what you've seen so far is nothing compared to what we have planned.
And a direct message to the XFL. I gave you guys a little bit of a head start intentionally so that you could get your stuff going, so that you'd have people going in and seeing it, and you would have a little bit of steam, because you were going to need it. Some stuff happened that was out of my power that actually delayed me. So that was, you got lucky on that, but you're gonna have to be prepared, because when we hit, we're gonna hit hard, and we're gonna take it to the next level. So I'm anxious to see their next show, and but I'm really anxious for some of the stuff that's gonna happen with Online Onslaught.
I'm getting excited. There's excitement and electricity in the air. A little healthy competition is good. So Jonathan, Cisco Heat, we're bringing it to you, boys. So get ready to either run with the ball or drop it and go home. And totally off subject, but Alexa Bliss, if you're watching this, make sure you give me a call.
Thanks everybody for watching, and check back. I know it's been a while since our last video, but we're gonna try to schedule the next. We're gonna try to schedule the next pay-per-view for the end of this month. So stay tuned.
Absolutely. Get excited, folks, because it's almost time to enter the dark side.
The preceding announcement has been paid for by Dark Side Wrestling.